This reading is from Censored 121, and the title is called Angels of Light by William J. Eisenman, Ph.D. And before I begin, I'd like to read a couple of scriptures. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. That's 1 Thessalonians 5:21. He that oppresseth the poor, to increase his riches, and he that gives to the rich shall surely come to want. Proverbs 22, verse 16. He that makes haste to be rich shall not be innocent. Proverbs 28, verse 20. As the nail sticks to the stone, so sin sticks to buying and selling. Ecclesiastes 27, verse 2. We have in America today a political party that uses God as a front man for all its wickedness and foolishness. The party masquerades as an angel of light. It lies. This party was in office when Wall Street brought the United States economy to its knees. By this time, all Americans should have an understanding of how Wall Street enriched itself while robbing Main Street. By this time, most in-tuned Americans must know about LIBOR, the London Interbank Offered Rate, and the scandal surrounding it. LIBOR is a club of self-regulating international banks, which set the LIBOR rate for the rest of the world. 18 big banks issue a rate that they think they would have to pay to borrow money. The final rate is an average, with no proof behind it. It's on the honor code. $800 trillion is involved. It has come to light that for years the whole thing has been a sham. LIBOR was a rotten system. The global financial setup was a racket. Nothing was the result of the market. LIBOR was rigged. Modern international bankers form a class of thieves the likes of which the world has never seen before. And it turns out, as it did in the United States regarding Wall Street, the regulators were asleep at the switch. Deliberately asleep at the switch. What has become evident is that the entire Anglo-American financial system is sick. The Republican Party believes it has a stovepipe to God. It believes it consists of uber patriots. Many of these uber patriots were at the head of the pack with their greedy hands out, taking bribes from big business lobbyists who wanted to change the financial laws so they could transform their criminality into righteousness and good modern day business sense. 1 Timothy 3, verses 3 through 8. The 2007-2008 financial crisis was a result of greedy, smart-ass business people and politicians who thought they were smarter than President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his brain trust, who gave us protective laws like Glass-Steagall. Today's politicians and Wall Street honchos thought laws from the 1930s were quaint and not applicable to today. That turned out not to be the case. There are many laws that are quaint, wicked, and non-applicable. Citizens United is such a law, and Kidda versus Director OWCP, 769F. Second, 165, Third Circuit, 1985, cert denied, 475 U.S. 1096, 1986 as well. Citizens United enshrines and sanctifies, glorifies even, corruption in our laws and politics. Citizens United has transformed evil corporations and plutocrats into angels of light. Money as speech buys huge megaphones and leaves the people out of the system without a voice. One man, one vote is rendered a joke. Elections become a farce. Democracy is merely a platitude. Kidam is simply a fantasy structure masquerading as a precedent. It is much like the non existing precedent that supposedly grants personhood to corporations. Kidder relies on a Social Security law that states that if a person works, he is not disabled. This mere bookkeeping trick mystically grants normality to the physically and permanently disabled. Justice Roberts on the United States Supreme Court believes that if one can brush his teeth, he's not disabled. Both of these self-serving excuses for laws need immediate repealing. These laws and their ilk follow the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. Everything moves toward disorder. These laws were written by weak-minded people with political agendas. We should not sugarcoat the intent and results of these laws. Only evil and deceived minds could have come up with these laws. Revelation 12, verse 9. These two laws lack spirituality, and justice is a foreign concept to them. Kidda mocks Proverbs 22:22, where we are told not to rob from the poor just because they are poor. Those who tout the free market system have little to say about those parts that breed inequality, unemployment, and injustice. They conveniently fail to inform us about the enemies of capitalist stability, war, and depression. They refuse to tell us the truth about the business cycle, which includes recessions that are times of much supply and little demand. They hide from us the true facts concerning globalization, which transfers technology and capital from high wage to low wage countries. Also, the question is never asked how any of this can be considered patriotic. The Federal Reserve has two mandates. Number one is to manage interest rates, and number two is to provide cash to banks. During the financial crisis of 2007-2008, the Fed provided money to banks at nearly zero interest rate. Did any of this free money trickle down to you, Mr. and Mrs. Main Street? No, it did not. People are losing their homes. Veterans are living in tents in the woods in Florida. Unemployment benefits were cut. And in regard to unemployment benefits, why is it that we do not dare tax the rich, but we do tax unemployment benefits? What kind of Christian gives to the rich, who, as the Bible states, have their consolation? It must always be kept in mind that it was the G.W. Bush Republican administration that allowed the greedy and unholy capitalists on Wall Street to drive the United States economy to its knees. It's time to take the blinders off and denude our mutant form of capitalism of its cloak of Christianity, mom, and apple pie. What we call capitalism and worship as a golden calf is but an uncompromising belief in privatization of resources, granting of unfettered powers to corporate executives, and an encouragement of debt so extreme it results in contemporary modes of enslavement for countries and individuals. The capitalism we know and love is a deviant form, and it is a failure for about 230 million Americans. it must always be kept in mind that it was a messianic belief in privatization, deregulation, profits above people that resulted in the financial crisis, which to all intents and purposes is proving worse than the Great Depression. It took Franklin D. Roosevelt and World War II and well over a decade to get out of the Great Depression. Blaming President Obama obscures the issue. According to Bible prophecy, America's downfall is a curse from God because Americans, those calling themselves Christians, worship the wrong God. It's not about gays and abortion, secular humanism. It's about the golden calves that counterfeit Christians worship. It's about idolatry. The 2007-2008 financial meltdown can be laid at the feet of Milton Friedman and his minions. Friedman's economics worships a non-existent free market, privatization, and deregulation. In Friedman land, corporations are free to do as they please. They have political power and are not loyal to any country. It was heavy corporate lobbying that led to the 2007-2008 financial crisis. From 1998 to 2008, $1.725 billion went to political contributions, and another $3.4 billion was given to lobbyists to gut federal regulations. Derivatives, which were major players in the financial crisis, were deliberately, by law, put off limits to regulators. Glass-Steagall was done away with. Our system is crazy. Laws that should never see the light of day, like Citizens United, KIDA, and the laws deregulating banks, are hard to alter or get rid of. But for a few bucks to the right politicians, and poof, your pet laws become the law of the land. Laws that transform criminality into legality become enshrined as modern business practice. Milton Friedman and his minions are politicians with an agenda. They are not economists. In 1983, 50 corporations controlled nearly all the news media in the United States. By 1992, these 50 had dwindled to 30, and today the number is 6. Time Warner, Disney, which owns ABC, Murdoch's News Corporation, Bertelsmann of Germany, Viacom, and General Electric, which owns NBC. All of these promote free trade, not fair trade. They promote privatization and in no way serve the public interest. These huge corporations do not hesitate to use money and intimidation to get their way. Have you ever asked yourself why your credit card interest rates are so high? Why are our banks allowed to practice usury in a country that prides itself on its Christian values? Well, you better sit down, because anti-usury laws were overturned by the right-wing saint, President Ronald Reagan. In 2008, there were 355 billionaires in America. In recent years, it has become clear to many Americans that those with the money and power go to great lengths to cheat the system. Taxes paid by corporations in 1943 were 40%. Now, in 2003, it is 7%, and still they complain. For at least the last 32 years, the rich have not paid their fair share of taxes, and still they complain. A very successful propaganda campaign has turned our fair progressive tax system into a punitive one, say the rich. If the wealthy do not want to pay high taxes, there's a simple remedy. Don't make so much money. Be content with contentment, like the Bible says. Remember, less money at the top means more money down below. More money at the top means a contracted economy. In 2007, 40 million people lived below the poverty line, and 10% of Americans owned America. From 1999 to 2007, America lost 5 million manufacturing jobs. And this occurred on the G.W. Bush watch. Remember, not one net job was produced during the Bush administration. Did you hear a hue and cry back then, like now, concerning jobs and Obama? And remember this, the jobs that are gone are never coming back. And also, as George W. Bush left office, the unemployment rate was 7.8, that which it is now under Obama. The Pentagon can't keep track of its spending and has lost, can't account for trillions of dollars, yet we keep throwing money down that black hole. The 2009 military budget was $515.4 billion, while actual expenditures brought this figure to $607 billion. However, when all accounted for categories are added in, the figure jumps to over $1 trillion and could even reach $1.4 trillion. There's a lot of waste there. It should be a no-brainer when we talk about cutting the budget. We need to start with the military budget. World War II took 4 years to win. Iraq took 9 years. And Afghanistan, I believe, is in its 12th year. Something is amiss here. Afghanistan is a war against a religious cult where its sympathizers, whom we are training, are killing our soldiers. It was time years ago to get out. The war is fruitless. In light of Bible prophecy, America is unaware of its real enemies. Let us return to the 2007-2008 financial crisis and recession. The approximate causes of the crisis were: 1. Too much leverage. 2. Too much risk. 3. Too much subprime lending. At the present time, Wall Street is still geared to serving itself, its shareholders, and employees. Wall Street is supposed to allocate capital and allow investors to diversify their portfolios. As far back as Netscape, speculation became Wall Street's investment strategy. Wall Street got addicted to CDOs between 2003 and 2008. Before 1975, investors had to put up 40 to 50% of a share to place or buy or sell, to place a buy or sell order for stock through a broker, a fixed commission. Recently, Wall Street became drunk on cheap money and leverage. Unlimited capital, limited liability, and incentive compensation led to disaster. Out came Wall Street's greed, ineptitude, and folly. All checks and balances, as well as regulations, were gone or not enforced. Wall Street bonuses began to rise in the mid-1980s. They doubled in 1991 and for 17 years, growing on average of 11.7%. During this same period, the average wage dropped from 4% to 2%. Profits are all that is important to Wall Street. Wall Street is driven by fear and greed. During the G.W. Bush administration, those who were to be regulated were paying the regulators. It is much the same today with Big Pharma, who pays off the FDA. There were panics on Wall Street in 1819, 1837, 1857, 1873, a 6-year depression in 1893, 1907, and our Great Depression. In recent years, everyone deferred to Wall Street. Even the rating agencies were flawed. It was all about the deal and getting it done. Some angels of light on Wall Street, not knowing God's take on buying and selling, claimed they were doing God's work. As of 2009, the United States government threw $12 trillion into the economy, and none of this went to Main Street. Not one house was saved from foreclosure. It all went to the banks, and to date, not one person has been convicted in connection with the crisis. The United States Attorney General refuses even to prosecute. This is how G.W. Bush and Dick Cheney got away with war crimes. Ever hear of Jill Stein, Rocky Anderson, or Dr. Bill? William J. Eisenman, the author? They, and several others, are independent candidates for the office of President of the United States. Most of you know only about the two monopoly parties, Republican and Democratic. You decry the evils of money in our elections and want public financing, which remains a pipe dream. At this moment, the only way to get the money out of politics is to exercise your right to write in a candidate. In the future, we must come up with free ways of getting the candidates before the entire country. What we have now are two corporate candidates who grant the fat cats and the corporations more and more power, more fascism, the marriage between the state and corporations. Don't blame President Obama because there are no jobs. Blame the corporations. The corporations outsourced your job, and the jobs that are gone are not coming back. The political pundits and economic experts called this recent business downturn a recession. It was not. It was and still is a depression, not a jobless recovery. The United States economy is downsizing. It will never again experience a robust recovery. There is no rosy scenario. No amount of CNBC fluff talk will change this. You expected more positiveness? Sorry. Nothing but doom and gloom are on the horizon. Go to www.newslettercensored.com and click on Dr. Bill for President. And when you go to the polls, tell them you want to write in your vote. It's your right. It's time to clean house. Do not vote for any incumbents. We must repeal Citizens United and KITA. All incumbents are in one way or another beholden to those who gave them money. We need new blood. Choose your candidate and don't let the media do it for you. Understand what is at stake. The old ways never worked. never vetted candidates enough. Stump speeches are nothing but PR that hides the truth. Campaigns run like this are nothing more than propaganda. The two-party monopoly must go. Democracy, rule by the people, is about not the corporations. It's about you, not the corporations. One person, one vote must mean something. No more lemmings for the corporate way. Those that are evil must be exposed as angels of light. If it's about taking back the country, then let's take it back for the people, not the corporations and the fat cats. Don't forget, it's your right to write in your vote. Vote for Dr. Bill. William J. Eisenman. Go to www.newslettercensored.com and click on Dr. Bill for President for further information. The end.